Hey guys, welcome to another Hunter video. I'm a Night Elf Hunter on the PTR server actually, and what I'm gonna do now is preview some of the Hunter changes in the latest patch 3.3 on the PTR for you guys, and also the feelings I have towards the changes that are being made. Well, if you don't know, overall in the sum of it, hunters are getting buffed, and this is something that really hasn't been too common with our hunter class. We were getting nerf after nerf after nerf, and then unnerf because they nerfed us too bad, and this is the first time in a long while where there's pretty much nothing but buffs. There are a few nerfs as well, but I'll go over them in a second. So the first skill I'm going to talk about is called Stabled Pet. Now this is fairly simple, you all know what this does, except now instead of having a 30-minute cooldown, it is a 5-minute cooldown. Plain and simple. This wasn't too big of a problem because as a hunter right now, if you have dual spec, you could just change your spec and the call stabled pet would become available again, even though it was on cooldown, and then just switch back. But this was a bit of a nuisance, and the 5-minute change was very welcome. The next skill change is Deterrence. Deterrence now blocks and parries all spell, melee attacks, and now also ranged attacks. So that means Deterrence can be used against hunters as well. And this is a great change, just so that in PvP you could survive just a little bit longer. Still no paladin bubble, but very welcome in terms of a change. Now the next skill is Misdirection. Now this is probably the biggest change in terms of the entire hunter class, because Misdirection used to give the hunter 3 shots, which would misdirect the damage onto whichever one they misdirected it to. But now what it does is when you use Misdirection, let's say I use it on my little spirit beast here, I still cast it with a 30-second cooldown, and it has a misdirection buff called with 30 seconds. What happens now is the first attack that I do, it'll start counting with 4 seconds, and in those 4 seconds any type of attacks that I do will be directed, the threat of that attack, will be directed to, in this case, my spirit beast. What does that mean? Well, let's say a tank is multi-tanking. That means you could cast Misdirect onto the person, shoot a multi-shot, maybe have an explosive shot, and then volley, which means anything that you shoot within that 4 seconds, all of that threat will go to the tank. Or let's say if you're soloing, all that multi-mob threat will go to your tenacity pet. So this is an awesome change. Love to test it out in raids and heroics. The next is a Beastmaster only change, Intimidation. Now, Intimidation used to stun the person on the next attack of the pet, but now it basically just intimidates anyone for 3 seconds. Anyone next attack, whether the attack hits or not. So even with an unsuccessful attack, it will stun the person, and it's a great skill for PvP as well as PvE, especially when you are in a tight situation in PvE and you need intimidation right here, right now. And the next change is Explosive Trap. Before, Explosive Trap used to do about 900 damage in terms of overall fire dot damage, and now Explosive Trap does your attack power, ranged attack power, plus 900 in terms of dot damage. And what I've noticed now is, for me personally, without any enchants or gemming in my gear on this pre-made character, I have 5,213 fire dot damage, whereas my Immolation Trap has only 2,000. So now explosive trap is better than immolation trap in every way, except you only use immolation trap when you don't need AoE damage. Otherwise, you have to use this. It's purely awesome. Now let's go on to some pet changes. Pets have gone through some major fundamental changes as well. And let's see, pet. There we go. Alright, you may be noticing that avoidance is now gone. But don't worry, avoidance has been buffed and nerfed at the same time. Let's see, here it is. Avoidance, now all pets get a passive 90% AoE resistance or damage resistance with avoidance. Now every single pet will have it. You don't have to spec for it as a hunter. And what is replaced by is culling of the herd, which gains the pet and the hunter 3% extra damage when the pet scores a critical attack with their base skill, which in this case is Claw. And this is a great change for Beastmaster hunters, especially I'm getting a little too excited there, because a Beastmaster hunter's pet can attack a lot faster thanks to Frenzy and things like, where was that other one? Serpent Swiftness. So that means we get a lot more attack power. I don't think it's going to bring us in line with survival hunters in terms of damage, but it's going to bring us pretty close now. Another change is Cower. Cower now, instead of being threat based, it will reduce damage that the hunter pet takes by 40%, but at the same time reducing the movement speed of the pet. And improved Cower will lower that movement reduction, and once you get 2 points into it, you won't have any movement reduction whatsoever. And this is great for soloing or my hunter tanking spec, and also my whatever gold making solo spec. The next, or I guess just a few other points which they're not my spec, but it's very good to talk about them. The point of no escape in the survival tree. Where is it now? Instead of increasing critical strikes on all targets, now increases it only for people trapped in the freezing trap, freezing arrow, and frost trap. So that means you can bet that freezing arrow will be used a lot more in raids, just for that extra damage. Now, lock and load also now has a 22-second cooldown, which I don't believe is too different from what it was before. I think it was 30 seconds previously. So now it's an internal cooldown of 22 seconds, which is a buff to lock and load. And silencing shot now also prevents spellcasting of non-players by 3 seconds. And so what that means is you can't interrupt spellcasts of players, but it can in PvE situations. And the nerf that hunters got is pretty much in avoidance as well. Now, avoidance doesn't work at all in PvP. So that means a mage can AoE your pet down pretty quick. And overall, I love the changes. They're great, and I can't wait to test them out when the patch hits live. And so that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and take care. Till next time.